Grace and peace from Grace Church on the Hill in Toronto. And today I'm here with Micah Latimer-Dennis, who is new to Grace Church, and I thought it would be an interesting time just to introduce him to our community. Welcome, Micah.
Thank you.
Micah is a native of Chicago, and he is also a postulant in the Diocese of Toronto. He and his wife, Claire, have just arrived in Canada and graduated from Duke University in North Carolina, where they did the Anglican Studies program. But both are postulants in our diocese, and I just want to welcome Micah here to Grace Church for the first time. Obviously, they had to quarantine when they crossed the border, but they have emerged from quarantine, and Micah has just begun here at Grace Church this week, and his first Sunday here. So I just thought it would be an opportunity to say hello and find out a bit about Micah Latimer-Dennis from Chicago. Well, what's it feel like to be on the north side of the border?
Yeah, well, it feels very good. It feels good to be on the outside too. It was a good 2 weeks inside, but it's nice to be able to explore Toronto and this new city that we'll be living in on foot. Yeah, we've both had a few weeks at work. Claire's working at the cathedral downtown where we're living, so I've gotten to see her preach there, which was a real treat, and just started here last week.
Well, she'll get to see you preach here in a month or so.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Presumably online.
So you're enjoying discovering the St. Lawrence Market area and just...
Yeah, sort of making skirmishes out into different parts of Toronto. We're hoping to go to the islands pretty soon. We went to Woodbine Beach last weekend. But yeah, it's been a fun place so far, and I'm biking up to Grace Church every day, and that's been cool to see just the way the city changes within these few kilometers.
Good. Tell us a bit about yourself. You're the eldest, I understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I come from a large family. I have 4 siblings, all younger. From Chicago. My parents still live there. They live sort of by the University of Chicago, so grew up in kind of an urban context, and feels in some ways like a homecoming to come to Toronto, in that living in Durham was very much a small town in comparison. But yeah, I went to high school in Chicago, and then went to college in the suburbs, Wheaton College, and studied international relations there. Mm-hmm. And then took a few years off between school to teach.
You're a math teacher, aren't you?
I was actually a math tutor for 3 years, mm-hmm. Full-time in Chicago public schools, which was just a lot of fun, to be on the other side of the learning, the other side of the desk. Yeah. But then went to Duke, where I met my wife, and started the path to ordination there.
Right. And the Anglican Studies program there has been a good, solid start for you?
It has, yeah. I think probably my favorite element was just getting up to pray morning prayer with other folks in the program. It was usually about 20 to 30 of us, 7:45 every morning. Sometimes felt a little early, but we'd watch the trees behind the glass change as the season went on, and having that consistency was a real gift over the course of my 3 years at Duke.
And you have just completed this summer a clinical pastoral education placement in a hospital, mm-hmm. in, is it Durham?
Yeah, near Durham in Hillsborough, North Carolina. It was a good time to be a chaplain. There's
and what
obviously...
what are your chief learnings from that challenging vocation?
Yeah. let's see. Well, I think I've mentioned to you before just that I found it illuminating how people's stories would open up. I think I often sort people into kind of categories as I see them or from things they say, but just sitting with people as in hospice as they were dying, or talking to family members, or sitting with people who are sick, I think I realized just that people are far more interesting and variegated, and there's so much more to them than I initially thought, and that was a gift to see.
And that's a very humbling insight. You can't tell a book by its cover. Right.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain intimacy to being with someone when they're in distress like that. So it felt like a real privilege to be able to do that, especially in the pandemic when it wasn't really certain that we'd get to be chaplains this summer.
Right. Right. Sure, you learned a few things about yourself.
I did, yeah.
As well as about others.
Yeah, and I think that was certainly a helpful aspect of it, just learning to recognize the ways that other people's stories provoke certain responses in me, and learning to distinguish what's my story and what's their story, and what God is doing in both those stories. Yeah.
And your story is evolving quickly.
It is.
Yeah. Because in a year from now, God willing, you should be ordained as a deacon in the church. And that's a whole other evolution, isn't it? And, you're on the path to ordination to the priesthood in our diocese, and that's it's a bit challenging, stretching. In your time here at Grace Church, what are you hoping to learn or even to offer to our community?
Yeah.
What would you like to offer?
Well, I think right now, when so many patterns of our worship and our life together have been disrupted by the pandemic, there's also the possibility for some new patterns to form, I think. And I'm looking forward to digging deeper into Scripture and into Christian teaching alongside people here at Grace Church. And yeah, looking forward to doing some small groups. I'm planning to start a men's Bible study. Still determining whether that will be on Zoom or in person, or maybe some combination. But I think in this time of some turbulence, there's an invitation to find stability in God and to grow in that together. And I think that's what really excites me about being here now.
Yeah, we're also inhibited from being with one another physically, in person, whether it's visiting in a retirement home or nursing home or hospital or in someone's residence or backyard. I guess we can these days. But that's challenging in this new environment to relate just virtually. And we're all trying to learn how best to do that. It's not ideal, but it's what we're permitted at the moment. Yeah, I wonder what God's Spirit is saying to us in this time of upheaval and disruption. What do you think? With all the norms we've accepted in the local church, and now we have to drill down to core values?
Yeah, I think one of the things I experienced, especially early on in the pandemic, was a sense of mutual recognition with my neighbors that was unusual. You know, even in Durham, it's a friendly city, but you don't ordinarily talk to people on the street. But in those first few weeks, I started talking to my neighbors, and we started coordinating groceries. And I think that's one thing God's inviting us to, is a deeper recognition of our neighbors and of
breaking down walls,
yeah,
barriers.
our mutual, all the things that we share, and kind of calling us to solidarity in the face of a great
common
tragedy.
condition. Yeah. Yeah, I've discovered that in this neighborhood as well. People who wouldn't normally look at you or chat, or now they acknowledge you, say hello, wave, make room for you, sort of make a humorous remark or something. People are communicating in this big anonymous city in a way they weren't 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of breaking through, isn't it? The recognition we're all in this together, and we'd like to help one another as best as we can.
And it seems like, in a very concrete way, our health depends on one another in this time, and that fortifies, or can fortify, that sense of solidarity with one another.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you're going to have a happy time in Canada, and I hope you and your wife are going to enjoy this learning curve you're on as postulants in the diocese, and I hope that your time in Grace Church will be blessing to you and a fruitful time on both sides, because what we found over the years, we've had a number of students and curates and assistants, is that we're always enriched by refreshing the stream with new currents. And it's a pleasure to welcome you here to Grace Church. So I've enjoyed meeting and speaking with Micah Latimer-Dennis, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to his story. And you'll hear more from him, because he's going to be speaking and writing to our community and offering his gifts for the common good. Grace and peace to you from Grace Church on the Hill, Toronto.